So Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON Seshadripuram, ISKCON West outpost of ISKCON Seshadripuram for the Sunday evening feast program. So whatever, past few years we have been having this program, and we have been discussing Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We have now reached the 6th chapter. We will today discuss verse number 20, verse number 20 to 23. 6th chapter, verse number 20 to 23. So it's a long verse, so I will read it. Actually, it's together in Bhagavad Gita, 20 to 23 together, 3 verses together. And Prabhupada has given a purport also together in this for these 3 verses. So let's read the 6:23, 6:20 to 23. I will read the verse. I will also share the screen. Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, we are doing verse number 20 to 23. Okay. I will read the verse. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatma nat chaivat manatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati shukam atyantikam yattat buddhi grahyam atindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam stitaschalati tatvatah yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadikam tatah yasmin stito na dukkena gunapi vichalyate tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samnitam. You want to try? Okay. So here you come here. Our Rishabh will read, whichever you can read, you can try. So Rishabh will read the verse now. Repeat the verse basically once.
Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyanatmani tushyati sukham atyantikam yattat buddhigrahyam atindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam stitachalati tatvatah yam labha chaparam labham manyate nadikam tata yasmin stito na dukkena gurunapi vichalyate tam vidyat sukha samyogat yogam yoga samnitam.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Very nice. Okay, it's a long verse again. So synonyms we will take up. Yatra, in that state of affairs where uparamate cease, because one feels transcendental happiness. Chittam, mental activities. Niruddham, being restrained from matter. Yoga sevaya, by performance of yoga. Yatra, in which. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Atmana, by the pure mind. Atmanam, the self. Pashyan, realizing the position of. Atmani, in the self. Tushyati, one becomes satisfied. Sukham, happiness. Atyanikam, supreme. Yat, which. Tat, that. Buddhi, by intelligence. Grahyam, accessible. Atindriyam, transcendental, veti, one knows, yatra, wherein, na, never, cha, also, eva, certainly, ayam, he, stitaha, situated, chalati, moves, tatvataha, from the truth, yam, that which, labdva, by attainment, cha, also, aparam, any other, labam, gain, manyate, considers, na, never, adhikam, more, tataha, that, than that, yasmin, in which, stitaha, being situated, na, never, dukkena, by miseries, guruna api, even though very difficult, vichalyate, become shaken, tam, that, vidyat, you must know, dukkha samyoga, of the miseries of material contact, viyogam, extermination, yoga samnitam, called trance in yoga. Translation: in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to release and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurudminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jeevam. Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Maneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpa Tharubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Om Tat Sat. So I have not read the purport today because it's going to be a long purport. So as we read a few lines, then we will discuss also. That's the slight change that I've tried to do today. So, so this is basically Dhyana Yoga. That means understanding what do you call spiritual life through the process of Dhyana. That means Dhyana or Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. You know, that's the route. If you have to try to achieve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what is the process? Through the Yoga and the Dhyana process and Ashtanga Yoga process. So that's been covered in this 6th chapter. And in the last verse, we saw that when a yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. So the purpose of yoga, again and again, we will keep talking the same thing, because the purpose of yoga is to actually subdue the material senses. So it's not to enhance the sense capacity, but it is to actually control the senses. That is the purpose of yoga. And therefore, he says one who has actually come to that perfection of that yoga he will actually be in a state of having complete control over the senses. So again, the process as understood today is to enhance the ability of the senses, right? When you perform yoga, they say your eye should be sharp, your your so many senses should become strong that even if you are in 70, then you should be able to enjoy the senses nicely. There's some kind of expectation, at least in people, that like I should do good concentration so that I can improve my business. So I want to get into yoga, right? Even when people, it is being introduced to the CEOs, but the aim is profit, higher profit. How can you improve your senses so that you can focus on material obsessions? But the real thing is how you can subdue your senses. It can become sharper in the service of Krishna, not for material gains. That's the slight difference which we need to understand. And here, in these verses, it is very strongly mentioned that in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities. So that's the strong point. That means when you are perfected yoga, your mind is completely restrained from material mental activities. That's the point you will reach when you are really practicing yoga in a very nice manner. Let's read the purport here. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristics of a yoga principles. We discussed this. That means the idea of yoga is to actually detach the senses from the you. That I am thinking I am body, but I am the soul, and my idea is to actually keep in the soul platform and subdue my tendency of bodily platform. That's the thing. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi. So that means once when one is fixed in the soul concept, then he can reach samadhi. As long as we are in a bodily concept, we can never reach samadhi, because samadhi is more related to the soul, not to the body. Which means that the yogi realizes the super soul through transcendental mind and intelligence without any of the misgivings of identifying the self with the super soul. So that is the other one. That means slightly you have to be a little bit focused here. It says, Prabhupada is writing, which means that the yogi realizes the super soul through transcendental mind and intelligence. Up to that is very clear. That means he is able to relate to the Supreme Lord who is sitting inside your heart as the super soul. So that means the yogi looks inwards and sees the Paramatma inside. So that's the point. Now the next line is very, or rather continuation of this line is very important. He sees through the mind and intelligence. That yogi sees inside him the super soul through the mind and intelligence, without any of the misgivings of identifying the self with the super soul. That means the very intricate things. Without any of the misgivings of identifying the self with the super soul. That means there are people, when you are performing this yoga, last time or the week before, Achyuta Prabhu showed that yoga ladder, where from this you can go to the Brahman stage, which means the self and the super soul are the same. That meaning. So people go to that stage of Brahman, which means impersonalism. That means I think that objective is to merge the super soul with the soul. In other words, I am Brahman. I am God. So there is one way from here you can jump to that point. When you reach that stage, there is always a tendency, right? Like, I am seeing soul, so the super soul, that means the Paramatma, and I will merge it to the super soul. This concept of union with the Lord. People's understanding is, I will merge with the super soul and I will lose my existence. Or in other words, I am God. Okay. So that one should not have is what Prabhupada is writing here. So he's saying, the misgiving of identifying the self and the super soul as one. That is something which we should be mindful of when you are able to see the super soul. There are a class of people who go to that stage. There are other class of people who understand it differently. We will see that clearly. Yoga practice is more or less based on the principle of the Patanjali system. Some unauthorized commentators try to identify the individual soul with the super soul. Again, and the monists think that this to be liberation. So the monist means what? Everything is one. For them, the soul and the super soul is one. And at that perfectional stage, they actually merge in their mind. And everything is one. Therefore, there is no, what do you call, distinction between super soul as being a separate entity and the soul being a separate entity. So that is the thing that we need to be mindful when we are reaching that stage. Think that this is to be, the monist thinks this to be liberation, but they do not understand the real purpose of the Patanjali system of yoga. There is an acceptance of transcendental pleasure in the Patanjali system, but the monists do not accept this transcendental pleasure out of the fear of jeopardizing the theory of oneness. That means, see, the problem is, if I think I am individual and I am starting experiencing transcendence, then I feel I am in a kind of a caught up situation. So I want to actually merge with that supreme and then lose that complete independence. So that is the thinking of this monists. But what they do not understand is, being separate but at the same time enjoying with the Lord is something which they cannot comprehend. See, why the monist actually thinks that he wants to merge with the Lord. No, that's something which is very, their understanding of the whole thing is, when you are limited with a form, then your ability is also limited. Like, if I have a hand, my hand can only reach this much. And if I'm going to put that Lord in that form, then you immediately think the Lord and that form of mine and the Lord's form looking alike is then having the same limitation, that it can only reach that much. But Brahman is spread all over. It has its hands and legs and mouths and everything all over the place. That is better to understand God that way than to put a limitation to the God to think that it is a form. Now, your idea of wanting to be in that, in the bodily, not bodily concept, keeping the individual thing is, you feel, if I am in that, I am restricted. But I want to liberate from this bodily concept, but go and join with that Brahman. So this is their problem. But we will go further down and then we will understand what Prabhupada is saying. We don't know the real purpose of the theory of oneness. The duality of knowledge and knower is not accepted by the non-dualists. Right? So they do not accept two separate beings. That means the Lord is separate, you are separate. They don't accept it that way. They say that everything is one. Okay, then why are you worshipping a God? Right? No, that is not what it is. You see, they also worship God. Right? We say so many forms they worship. That is to a point where you can, because I can't focus on nothing. So you focus on something, have that as a point for concentration. But once you reach that stage, that is actually doesn't exist. So for example, we all have, right, I like one particular form, you like another particular form. So okay, you don't have to think this form, you take that form as God. So you focus and you progress. But at some stage, that is also not the supreme God for them. That means you step over there and then you go and merge with that one. So where is that as separate and you are separate? Then why do you have a form of? That is only for focusing for the time being, till I come to that stage of realizing I am part of Brahman. So you need some object to focus on. But once you come to that platform, that object is not material. That object is also part of the whole, and I am also part of the whole, and that object and me are also the same. That is their concept of understanding. They do not accept the duality. That means super soul is separate, I am separate. But it is this. But in this verse, transcendental pleasure realized through transcendental senses is accepted. That means you have senses and you can get transcendental senses. That is through the transcendental senses you can get transcendental bliss. Slightly. That means you retain your individuality even after being liberated. So liberation according to them is giving up body and merging with the Supreme. But you give up the body, maybe, but even when you are having a body, you can still be liberated. That means that bliss or that enjoyment of the senses can still continue to happen in the transcendental mode, not in the material mode. So that's the duality. That means I remain as I, and the super soul or Krishna remains as then himself. And I'm still enjoying happiness. That is Satchidananda. We have heard this. What is Satchidananda? That means Sat means eternal. Chit is full of knowledge. Ananda is bliss. How can you be eternally bliss if you are going to be merged into something? So the point is, you remain separate, the Lord remains separate, and you are always in Ananda, being aware, separate from the Lord. Not that you have to merge with the Lord. But they cannot accept this separate happiness. It is in oneness only I can get this Ananda. But our understanding is, Lord is separate, I am separate, but in my relationship with the Lord, that Ananda is there, and that relationship and the activities are not material activities like how we perform with the material senses. That is the point of liberation. Point of liberation is what? I will do activities, but that activity is not relating to this body. That means at that point in time, I am not working for my own senses. I am working for the senses of the Supreme Lord. It is like how a simple example you can give is when supposing you are income tax officer. Now, in that role, you are not receiving the money from the assessee as your money. You are receiving it as the President's representative, President of India. You are taking it as his representative. That means he cannot, when he receives a check of, say, income tax payment of 5 crore, if I receive it on my behalf, I'll be so happy. Wow, 5 crore, my bank balance is going up 5 crore. What all I can do with that 5 crore? But if he's receiving it on behalf of the President of this country, he takes it with responsibility. Now here, he is receiving it, but he is not actually taking the benefit of that money. The same thing when you are using your senses for the Lord, that is service for the senses of the Lord and not for me. So the action is the same, like when you honor prasadam, for example. It is eating food in one sense if you look at it. But a pure devotee does not look at it as this is giving pleasure to my tongue. He looks at it as this is prasadam, therefore service to the Supreme Personality of God. And therefore, he remains as an individual away from the Lord, but he is not feeling that pleasure for the tongue. He is feeling the pleasure of the prasadam, that means a service which has happened to the Lord. And therefore, this is Ananda, that means in association with the Lord you are enjoying. Like, the Lord is giving you his remnants, and therefore I am actually honoring that, and that gives me pleasure. Not that, I am simply tasting the food and therefore I am getting pleasure. Association with the Lord gives a lot of difference between association with matter and association with the Lord. That's the difference. If you are simply associating with the matter and say this is food, a very nice food, that is putting you in binding. But if you are associating with the Lord, in other words, with the prasadam is not different from Krishna. So when you are having that, it is same food if you look at it from externally, but it is no more food. It is already spiritualized. And that one, when you are taking, you are actually in a liberated state, not in the material consciousness. So that's the difference. But the monist cannot understand this. The duality of knowledge and knower is not accepted by the non-dualist. But in this verse, transcendental pleasure realized through transcendental senses is accepted. That means, a simple example is accepting prasadam is transcendental pleasure. And this is authorized. But a monist will say, no, I will not eat. Because if I eat, then my tongue will not be controlled. We will say, please give me prasadam, I am happy to honor prasadam. They want to control their senses because they feel I am bound by the senses, I don't want to do it. You don't say that. You act with the senses, but only for the Lord. I am again taking the simple example of prasadam. You eat, engage the tongue because it's prasadam. They will say, no, no, the sweet will attract me and pull me down, I will not take the sweet. Very, very in a simple manner to say that. So that's why I say that transcendental pleasure is accepted in dualists. That means accepting the prasadam and enjoying the prasadam is accepted. But a monist cannot do that because for him it is some pulling himself down because it is attaching him more to the senses. By that sweet, it is pulling him down into the body concept. That's the difference. And this is corroborated by Patanjali Muni, the famous exponent of the yoga system. The great sage declared in his Yoga Sutras 4.33, Purushartha Sunyanam Gunanam Prati Prashavaha Kaivalyam Swarupam Pratishta Va Chitti Shaktir Iti. This Chitti Shakti or internal potency is transcendental. Purushartha means material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, the attempt to become one with the Supreme. That is monist. This oneness with the Supreme is called Kaivalyam by the monist. But according to Patanjali, this Kaivalyam is an internal or transcendental potency by which the living entity becomes aware of his constitutional position. In the words of Lord Chaitanya, this state of affairs is called Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Means you are cleaning your existence and coming to this point of understanding I am the spirit soul even though you are inside the body. You are not thinking I am the body till the end and therefore wanting to renounce this body. Body is fine as long as it is engaged in the service of the Lord. And at that point one is fully, like sometimes we don't do like that, right? When I'm honoring prasadam, yes, but my mind is also thinking at this time, what I should do next, which is nothing to do with the Lord. So we are, few seconds we are there, but the rest of the things I am looking at how I can enjoy my senses. But a pure devotee is actually 24/7 in that consciousness of the serving the senses of the Lord. Or clearance of the impure mirror of the mind. Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Prabhupada is translating as or clearance of the impure mirror of the mind. Darpanam, Cheto Darpanam. Cheta means it's like the heart. We are clearing that, cleaning the heart. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Clearing the impure mirror of the mind. This clearance is actually liberation, which is what I am saying. Liberation means you are coming to this point of understanding I am the pure spirit soul and I am working in the spirit soul platform even though I am in the body. So liberation can be achieved even when we are alive. But for a monist, liberation is only when he is out of this bodily existence. That means he goes and mixes with the Paramatma. For him, that is liberation. For us, liberation is being in the soul platform, sitting in the constitutional position. Constitutional position is in relationship with the Supreme. Soul in relationship with the Atma, with the Paramatma. The not merging, but serving. Relationship. It's not like, simple. My son is me, but not me. Right? I am out of him. He is out of me. And he has a wonderful relationship with me as the father's son. He cannot become father again. Like, if you say, okay, now therefore, he is me, therefore can he become the father? He can become father of someone else, but not my position. That becomes a wrong, it gives a wrong connotation. A son will always remain a son. He cannot become father, but he is part of the father. He is from the father. They think the son will merge into the father. We think he is separated, he remains there. And there is a wonderful relationship of father and son. And in that relationship, it's all perfected. And if the minute he understands that, that is liberation. Like in our case, Father is the Supreme Lord. We are separated from the Supreme Lord, and we are, and of course, not the body, the soul. And when you are situated in that soul concept, and when you are having that relationship with that Lord, that Father, and you are situated in that plane altogether, not in this bodily platform. I am situated in the soul platform, and I am in relation, having that consciousness in relation to that Father. Then that person is liberated. That's the understanding from a dualist point of view. This clearance is actually liberation, or Bhava Maha Daivagni Nirvapanam. The theory of Nirvana also preliminary corresponds with this principle. In the Bhagavad Gita 2.10.6, sorry, in the Bhagavatam 2.10.6, this is called Swarupena Vyavastitaha. That means situated in the Swarupa. Vyavastitaha is situated. Swarupena means in your actual Rupa. Our Rupa is not the body. You are the soul. And what is the Rupa of that soul? In that situation is basically in relationship with the Lord. That is actually the Swarupa. The Bhagavad Gita also confirms this situation in this verse. After nirvana or material cessation, there is the manifestation of spiritual activities or devotional service to the Lord, known as Krishna consciousness. That means, see, this coming to the platform of soul is just the beginning for us. Till you come to the point of soul, it's like, trying to be a human. But once we come to the platform of soul, only our journey begins. For then, at point of coming to the soul is end game. That means I have soul, and to me, my understanding. See, if your bar is here, you come to that point and you say, I am soul and I am one with the Supreme. There ends the matter. But for us, first I understand I am soul. Now what? Baba, there is something beyond. The super soul is there. Your job is to actually work in tandem with the super soul. Right? So for us, this is the liberation is the starting point. For them, liberation is the ending point. I mean, how they define liberation? There, it's like over. I have reached that pinnacle. I am now on soul platform. I am not having the body, and now I am there. That's it. This is the end. This is the Brahman. Brahman is formless, nothing. And now in that nothing, because I don't have a body, I have now reached that stage. What else? That's it. I have now mixed with the air, with the Brahman or whatever you call it. But for us, this is the beginning point. Now what? I see the Para-Brahman. It doesn't stop with Brahman. There is the Super Brahman. That means the super personality. And now I am a minute Atma. And he is the big Atma. And now, naturally, like when you see a superior authority, you work in subordination to them. Anywhere it happens, even in material world, right? When you see a superior person, then you naturally align with them. Because you understand, it's natural. You don't have to be taught, right? When you see, when two very intelligent persons come, the more intelligent, everybody else will automatically go and start relating to him from the intelligence point of view. And there is this, like, I have 10 rupees, someone has a crore or 10 crore. Naturally, that person becomes the leader. I am there, like, I'm looking up to him for further instructions. This is natural, like father and son is there, but today Kali Yuga is like different. But naturally, the child looks up to the father. Therefore, the soul looks up to the super soul. It's natural. That's the constitutional question. It's not like artificial. Oh, why should I consider the Lord my master? That is natural. It's not like, you have to force yourself to, oh, how can I be a servant? Baba, by nature, you are servant. That's it. There's nothing that, you need to convince yourself to be anywhere. No, it's very natural, right? It's so natural. In the yoga system as described in this chapter, there are two kinds of samadhi called some Pragnata Samadhi and Asampragnata Samadhi. When one becomes situated in the transcendental position by various philosophical research, he is said to have achieved sampragnata samadhi. So this is a little more technical. I don't know if yoga practitioners may know. Mataji is a yoga practitioner, maybe she will know. But from what I have understood, the sampragnata samadhi is actually one of the stages before you reach the asampragnata samadhi. That means at this stage of sampragnata samadhi, you are actually cognizant of your whatever, your external. That means external means this body, then internal being the soul, and also in relation to, so you understand in relation to the Lord. It's like you are aware of three aspects. That means there are three different personalities. I am cognizant of the body. That means I am living in that platform of a body, but I am also somewhere aware that I am part of something inner, that is the super soul. You are able to see that, but you are neither here nor there, kind of a situation. But this asam pragnata samadhi is where the platform is completely transformed to the final soul platform. So that's a kind of a transition period, like you move on from one stage to another stage. Like you cannot go to 10th standard before going to say 8th standard or 9th standard or 7th standard. You go step by step. So like that, these two stages are there. In the asampragnata samadhi, there is no longer any connection with mundane pleasure, for one is then transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from the senses. So this is the point I was making. That means at this stage, even though you are in body, your pleasures are not in relation to the senses which are actually in touch with that sense object, but it is connected to the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though we are acting with these senses, our existing senses. This is the point I was making. Just like when you eat prasadam, it is not to gratify your tongue. It is to gratify the Supreme Lord. I will give you one simple example, practical example, which the Lord says. The Lord says, you all know, right? When you have a yajna happening, everybody knows who are here for sure. If you are in performing a yajna, you know that the Homakunda is the mouth of the Lord. Right? All of us know that, right? Why are you pouring so much ghee and all that into the thing? Because it's basically considered the mouth of the Lord. Or if you are putting some dhoti or whatever, this is the hand of the Lord. So everything is. So Krishna says, while the Homakunda is my mouth, and when you offer the eatables, we offer so many eatables, right? In the Yajna Kunda, so many rice, so many things are put. So he says, I receive it, I am happy. But I am even more happier when that prasadam is actually, whatever is offered to the Brahmana. I receive it through the tongue of the Brahmana. Krishna says this. I am more happier when it is tasted by the Brahmana, and that I am actually happy. That means the Lord is actually using the tongue of the Brahmana as his senses. Now what is the position of the Brahmana therefore? He cannot take it as his tongue. He should take it as Krishna's tongue. Only then Krishna can enjoy it, right? If he thinks it is my tongue, then where is Krishna enjoying it? Krishna says, I am happy when I receive it through that tongue, means is Krishna is receiving it there. So the Brahmana is just an instrument. Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. These are practical things. Sometimes it looks very complicated, but practical it is. Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, in Mahabharata, is fighting the war. But he is actually coming to this platform, I am acting on your behalf, Krishna. Otherwise, he cannot perform what he did. In his personal capacity, he could not have done it. But he is simply saying, I am surrendering to you and you use me the way you want me to use. That means, I now become an instrument in your hand. Now you use me in whatever way you want. And Krishna uses him the way, that means that Krishna is using his power through Arjuna. And therefore he can kill so many thousands and thousands of soldiers. But as Arjuna, that was proved later. When Krishna left this material world, he went back to Goloka Vrindavan. Arjuna was here. At that point in time, some small boys defeated him. Like when Krishna left and he is coming back, at that time there is some kind of kidnapping is happening, and Arjuna is trying to attack the kidnappers, and he is not able to beat them. Just imagine, they are not warriors also, simple thieves. But Arjuna is not able to do it because at this point in time, Krishna is not acting through him. He's acting on his own capacity, and there he didn't have the power. So now the point is, if you are able to be an instrument in the hand of Krishna, that is the object of spiritual life. And someone is able to be in that state 24/7, he is in a liberated state. As neophytes, we try at some point in time, we are there, but majority time we are not there. But our objective is to become 24/7 instrument in the hand of Krishna. This is our journey. If we are talking about spiritual life, this is the journey, that how I actually become an instrument in the hand of Krishna. And if you see everybody, those who really, like look at Srila Prabhupada, what did he do? He simply said, when he was having those big heart attacks, whatever, when he was on that, that ship, Jaladuta, when he was there, he was having heart attacks. And he was saying, Krishna, I have come here because you wanted me to come here. Now I am on my way. Now you decide what you want me to do. If you want me to go and preach there, I will do it. If you say, finish me off, come back, I will come back. It's in your hands. Then Krishna appeared there and told him, boss, don't worry, I am there. He appeared in a boat, rowing that, like in a sea. He had the vision of Krishna appearing like in that boat and rowing the boat and giving. Then the sea became completely calm. The Pacific Ocean became very much pacified. It becomes Atlantic Ocean. I don't know, whatever, I think. Atlantic Ocean. So that became like a lake. The ocean became like a lake. It was so soft, and then Prabhupada could continue his journey without much of a turbulence in his bodily situation. So Krishna made it happen. So Prabhupada, it's not, I am not saying, Prabhupada is saying, I am an instrument in your hand. If you want me to dance, I will dance. If you want me to sing, I will sing. But I am just an instrument in his hand. And this Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, whatever he wrote, Prabhupada used to sit and read himself. People used to say, you only wrote it, why are you reading it so scrutinizingly? Like, no, I did not write. It is Krishna who wrote. I only just, he dictated, I wrote. So, now he's trying to understand that Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, if he is the author, he knows whatever it is. That way, he didn't look at it that way. He looked at it as, this is Krishna has told me, I have written it now. Now I am scrutinizingly studying what Krishna has said. That's the mood. So this is fact. And therefore, we could see what Prabhupada could achieve. Not a normally 70-year-old guy will never be able to achieve something like this. But Prabhupada simply submitted himself as an instrument in the hand of Krishna. And Krishna, it was a clean, he gave a clean white board. And Krishna drew it. That's it. We are only a pencil in the hand of Krishna. But if the pencil starts jumping around and trying to make something, it will never happen. But Krishna can make use of you and make a nice drawing. Like, so if I can be a pencil in the hand of Krishna, that is the mood, and Prabhupada actually did that. This is very practical, what he is writing here. It looked like a lot of philosophy, but how it translates in real life is this only. Today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various sense pleasures, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex and intoxication is a mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by the siddhis, perfection in the process of yoga, are not perfectly situated. Because if you are pursuing yoga is to get the siddhi, that ability to do extraordinary things which a normal mortal cannot do, then your motive is actually tinged with sense gratification. What is gratification? My mind and intelligence. My mind and intelligence is actually trying to make me say, I get these powers. That means it is to satisfy my craving for these powers. That is not actually, it's like, I want 10 crore. You can relate this to me. That it's for me, my pleasure, right? Now, the 10 crore can translate into someone to become a great music exponent. It's not object here, but the recognition for that being the topmost there. So sometimes it could be gross like a money or material. I want to get this car. He can immediately relate, he's trying to do for himself. But if he's trying to do something little abstract, we immediately say that is spiritual. That is not spiritual. You are trying to become very powerful to have siddhi is also to satisfy your, in a way, different types of egos. What is time? 8:15. Okay, we'll. Even those yogis who are attracted by the siddhis in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga, then they cannot attain the stage of perfection, because these are byproducts. It's very clearly mentioned. You are getting ability. The siddhi is only a byproduct. Sometimes people stop there, thinking, "Oh, now I have reached, right? I have now got powers." But that's just a byproduct. It is there, but you have to go beyond. That's what is being said. Persons therefore indulging in the make-show practice of gymnastics, feasts, or siddhis should know that the aim of yoga is lost in that way. That's a very practical example. Actually, okay, that's a very practical example you will see in Radhanath Swami Maharaj's life. So when he was in Himalayas, he came across one siddhi, one very great yogi. So, like, he could actually bring gold out of his hand. Right? He could bring gold out of his hand, that man. He demonstrated that. But then he said, this is not the purpose of yoga. He demonstrated that in front of everybody there. He was in Himalayas, not in any city to show off his skills. He was there, but he demonstrated that and said, these are byproducts. These are byproducts, and there is nothing great about getting these kind of gold and things like that. And he vanished back into the forest. So Radhanath Maharaj writes about it. Maybe I am not giving the exact, long time back I read it. But in essence, it is what it is. He exhibited a lot of yogic powers, but that gentleman said, but okay, just don't get carried away by these things. This is just nothing. This is simply byproducts. And the real purpose is to actually go deeper into the self-realization, and then he pursues his self-realization activities. So this is there. The best practice of yoga in this age is Krishna consciousness, which is not baffling. A Krishna conscious person is so happy in his occupation that he does not aspire after any other happiness. There are many impediments, especially in this age of hypocrisy, to practicing Hatha Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. But there is no such problem in executing Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. That's understandable, right? Sitting in a posture, we can't sit for half an hour in this pose. So where is the question of perfecting in yoga? There are a few people, but in Kali Yuga it's very, very difficult. But right from a child to an old age person, they can always be engaged in Bhakti Yoga or Karma Yoga. Very simple. As long as the material body exists, one has to meet the demands of the body, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. But a person who is in pure Bhakti Yoga or in Krishna consciousness does not arouse the senses while meeting the demands of the body. That's the snack. He does not arouse the senses while meeting the demands of the body. That means I will eat, not I. Let's say Prabhupada. Prabhupada will eat, but he is not attracted by the food from a gratification point of view. But he is eating with much more intensity. If you really see Prabhupada, when he honors Prasadam, I have seen one video of that. How focused he is in honoring that Prasadam, there's no absolute disturbance. He's just looking at that, whatever, the Prasadam, whichever item it is, and then he's focused, he's just taking it and honoring it. I've seen some Maharaj also honoring Prasadam. Not like eating like that and talking. He's so focused, he eats it like he's eating like the Prasadam, like hurting by chewing, That means they are fully absorbed in Krishna, not that I am enjoying for my tongue or for my, whatever, I like this food so much, so I will eat like lustily that food. No. They look at it as Prasadam, this is Krishna, and I am doing this service for Krishna. That means I am receiving this on behalf of Krishna. Like Krishna said, right? When the Brahmana takes, I taste it through the tongue of the Brahmana. So he is now acting as an instrument to receive this food. That's their mood. Sometimes we can only talk, we cannot really, but we get a sense of it the more we practice, right? Rather, he accepts the bare necessities of life, making the best use of a bad bargain, and enjoys transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness. He is careless towards incidental occurrences such as accidents, disease, scarcity, and even the death of the most dear relative. But he is always alert to execute his duties in Krishna consciousness. This is to say that he does not act in the bodily platform. He is neither affected by dukkha or with sukha for the body. So sometimes disease comes, sometimes scarcity comes, sometimes the dear one, near one dies, but he is not swayed. He just continues on his self-realization process. Accidents never deviate him from his duty. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Agamo Payino Nityas Tam Stitiksho Bharata. He endures all such incidental occurrences because he knows that they come and go and do not affect his duties. In this way, he achieves the highest perfection of yoga practice. So we will conclude here. It's a long verse, long purport. I don't know. I mean, little sometimes little confusing, but the simple. If you have to summarize it, yoga practice is to understand and see the Supreme inside us as Paramatma. From that stage, some yogis conclude that this is what is the ultimate. That means they look at spiritual realization as Brahman realization. But the same yogi can also take to the process of bhakti, which means understanding that the Lord and you are different, and you continue to be different even after liberation. A monist thinks that at liberation everything is over. That means I am actually merged into the Supreme and I lose my existence. But the other branches, which actually retains its originality, individuality, and in actually situated in a nice relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is so much of bliss in that. And this group actually wants to take that bliss, while the other group sees that bliss means it's with the body, and therefore I don't want to take any bliss. But I want to become one with that Supreme, and therefore I lose my identity. So that's what it is. And how practically we can apply that, we saw some of the examples. I will finish here. If there are any comments, questions, welcome. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
What is the meaning of a monist?
What is the meaning of monist is the question. Monist is someone who thinks that everything is one. Everything is one. For example, you and your father is one only. What do you think?
I think he's my father, but he's my father, but he's not me. I am my own self.
You are your own self and father is father. That's
I
all.
come from him.
That's so simple. A child can quickly understand this, but we will complicate it so much. You are right.
Another question I have.
Yes.
Who is the real true Brahmin? One who's born in the Brahmin family, or
Okay, see, he has a question. Now that we touched upon the Brahmin concept, he has a question: who is a true Brahmin? Is it one who is born in the Brahmin family, or some other definition?
Is he a person who's good at heart, or
Okay. Okay, so that means someone good at heart, maybe someone in Sattva Guna, is he a Brahmin? Or if is it that someone is born as a Brahmin? So Krishna says, Chaturvarnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaka. That means basically one becomes any of these Chaturvarnam, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, based on the Guna Karma Vibhagashaka. Guna means by your quality, nature, quality, nature. And karma is naturally, with that nature you work. Like, if you are having a mindset of a sportsman, by and large, you are not so much focused on academics, like, a scientist or something like that. A scientist is not, he will play, of course, he will play, but he is not the pinnacle of that game. So that's nature. So you are always aligned to your nature and your work. So that means it is not by birth. Straight answer to you is, a Brahmana is not by birth, but one can become a Brahmana. He can rise to the level of Brahman. Brahma, what's a Brahmana is? A Brahmana is Brahma ke bare mein janati, wo Brahman hai, they say in Hindi, which means one who is actually having an understanding of the Brahman. Then he is Brahmana. So one may be born in a so-called socially lower. There is nothing called lower, but we have created all these lower this one. But like this person is from a lower caste or whatever. That's our own creation. but it's about that particular soul. Wherever he is born, but his thinking is actually about that Brahman, then he is a Brahmana. Like, just like a doctor's son is not also a doctor.
Yeah.
Right?
Your
father is a pilot.
Yeah.
Can you go and drive?
I'm not going to fly plane. I'm going to become an automobile engineer.
No, right now, can you fly a plane?
No,
but your father is a pilot. Why can't you fly a plane?
I'm not trained in
You are not trained to be a pilot. The same son. Because you are born as a Brahman son, how can you claim you are a Brahmana? You should be trained to become a Brahmana. So this is actually, you can call yourself a Brahma Bandhu. That means a relative of a Brahman. Like if you can say, I am a pilot Bandhu. I am a relative of a pilot. But you cannot say I am a pilot. Same thing applies here also. You may be born in a Brahmanical family, but if you don't acquire the qualities of Brahmanical qualities, you are not a Brahman. So, does it answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anyone else has any other question? Or any comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thanks for the wonderful class. Lot of interesting detail. Very lengthy sloka, but lot of stuff to grasp. So you said yoga means controlling the material senses and not for enhancing material sense gratification, but using it for the service of the Lord. So for transcendental senses, for transcendental pleasure is accepted. The example was honoring the prasadam, which is accepted. You gave example of monis and how monis are different with their realization. They consider merging into Brahman as their goal. Some spiritual realization as Brahman realization, and they stop there. But that is not the end. Bliss is in serving the Lord.
Yeah.
You were talking something about different types of egos. I think I couldn't get that. I didn't think you got into detail.
Okay, so what I was saying is, sometimes it's easy to say when you are acting in a, gross platform, if I say I want a crore of rupees, then everybody can easily relate that, this person is actually selfish. He wants to take that money for his gratification. Or for example, if I say, I want to build a big house, let's say, if I say like that, then you immediately relate that, this guy wants to enjoy a big house. It's very easy to understand it like that. But there may be so many subtle things in my mind, but it may look like it is not selfish. That's why I gave some of these examples where I'm a great singer, let's say. Right? Now, I am singing, and I'm everywhere. But my deep down inside, my thing is I want to become the best singer. Right? Now, that becoming the best singer, I don't know if you can easily relate that to being selfish or whatever. Now, that one is to satisfy the mind and the ego. See, as I said, body includes mind, intelligence, body, that means the 5 senses, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Those are subtle. Mind, intelligence, and false ego are subtle. But they are also body. So, for example, if I take this laddu and eat, then it is for my gratification. You will say, oh, Prabhu, you are very keen on eating for your senses. But if I do something for the mind, sometimes people are not able to relate it as a sense gratification. I will give another example. Supposing I see someone and I'm in the signal and there's a beggar coming, taps on my car thing. I open the door and then I somehow give him 10 rupees. Now, if you really probe into your mind, what is your sympathy for? if you really see, sometimes subconsciously I am feeling guilty. I am sitting inside a car and nicely enjoying while this man is suffering. Therefore I needed to give. No, it's not more about, it's about I can't see him suffer, or my guilt, or it could be that I can't see him suffer. Therefore I give. But externally it will look like I'm doing without any attachment. But actually it is to satisfy something in my mind. It is either intelligence or false ego or one of those things. That's what I was trying to say. So if you are acting in that platform also, sometimes you have to question whether it is for me or it is for the Lord. If you are looking at it as a jiva, a Krishna's, he is my God brother. That means he and me are part of the Supreme. And here that person is actually, in this state. Therefore, I need to share with him. If that mood is there, then it is not a thing. But if you are feeling, I can't see him suffer, or I am actually enjoying while he is suffering, that is guilt consciousness. But if you are saying we are both part of the same Supreme and therefore I wanted to share with him, then that is like acting on behalf of the Father. So that is not actually sense gratification. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay, Prabhu. So if I understand it right, what you are saying is, when, for example, the beggar example or other example you gave, you are trying to say is that I should see that I am not acting on the bodily platform, but at more soul or living like jiva platform. Like
no, soul means basically you have to act on the soul platform in relation to the Supreme. That means you act for the pleasure of the Supreme.
Okay.
Like in this example of giving, you are giving because you are giving on behalf of Krishna, for Krishna's child, that is.
Okay.
Nothing to do with me.
Okay.
Krishna would like that other child also to be benefited, therefore I am giving. Not that, I am giving, or I am feeling, I am actually exploited him, therefore he is suffering, no, therefore let me give him something. Not like that.
Okay.
Because Krishna would want every of his child to be happy. And therefore I am acting on behalf of Krishna to make him happy. I am giving because Krishna will be happy if that son is happy. That more.
Okay. Got it. Thanks. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So thank you. I'm sorry we have slightly extended. I know it's a long verse and sometimes looks complicated, but I hope I could do a little bit of a justice to it.
No, it's really wonderful to know the realizations of yogi when he is in perfectional stage. So connection, to the previous verse, yogi means he is very perfect. Okay, he is perfect. There is no duality. And what are the things are realization of that particular yogi? So these are the 4 verses, and nicely you have given examples and all, like what are these primary characteristics, and what is actual samadhi, and then what is the transcendental pleasure through transcendental senses, and then yoga practice is more or less based on the principles of Patanjali system. And then Prabhupada went so detail about what is that Kaivalyam and Chitti Shakti of Patanjali. So internal potency and so deeper meaning for, according to monism, what is Kaivalyam and what is actual Kaivalyam according to Patanjali. And Prabhupada gave so much of Cheto, Darpana, Marjanam and all other details. So and more importantly, there are 2 different samadhis. So I was not aware. Samadhi means, okay, the one who attains that stage, that is a samadhi. But here there are 2 samadhi you mentioned. And very wonderful.
So there are much more. There are much more there, but I think this is very at a broad classification. Like Prabhupada was looking at it from one aspect, but there are actually so many other things.
Yes, yes. Rightly you mentioned that. What is that? Asamprajanta samadhi. That means mundane pleasure and all, nothing to do with this particular yogi. So he is away from all this.
Hmm.
Very wonderful, Guru. And many yogis, will stand up to the level of siddhis. I will bring out some particular object from my house, and the entire crowd will be, oh, very nice. He is very this thing. Prabhupada mentions many times. See what is happening in US airport. Yeah, Siddhi or Yogi can tell from here, but by paying 20,000 or 40,000, we can go there and see that. Why to waste 20 years and 30 years?
Yes.
Very wonderful points. And finally, the true yogi, best yogi, the one who is in Krishna consciousness.
Correct.
That conclusion is, perfect realization of a
Yes.
yogi. Thanks for all this elaborated. My only curiosity to know about this particular thing is this
Haribol.
Purushartha.
Yes.
Purushartha.
Prasadam kuda
That is in 34th verse. 34th purport, this after Kaivalyam, after Chiti Shakti,
Hmm.
Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, that is Purushartha means what that material religiosity, that economic development,
Hmm.
sense gratification, at the end attempt to become one with Supreme. What is this Purushartha?
So he's elaborating that, even you had talked about this also, right? The uh, that specific the different stages of realization. You start with economic development. You go on like that, right? What is that? The four, right?
The Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. See, people look at realize what you call spiritual realization in stage by stage. First dharma, then artha, then kama, then moksha. That means you it's like you have to experience all this. Like first you follow the regulative principles. Then you are also worried about the economic. That's the artha. Artha means the benefit, the economic thing. Then kama is the gratification of the senses, not simply the sex relationship, but it's about like hand, nose, everything, enjoying all these things. And finally, moksha is coming to the stage of liberation. Liberation in that sense is also gratification. See, each one of them are gratification at different stages. Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Moksha is the highest in that, where you are having merging with the Supreme. That means that is also a desire. You understand? See, this desire to merge means I want to lose my existence is also a desire, no? You get that, right? But here we don't even want any desire. Whether I merge or I don't merge, I don't care. I want to serve the Lord. There is no desire here.
So Purushartha gives that definition.
Yes. That basically elaborates that concept of liberation at various stages.
Okay. So since that word Purusha comes, so I was so curious to know why it is being mentioned as Purusha.
I don't know. I am not a Sanskrit grammar personality, so I don't know. But the way Prabhupada has explained that concept, I was trying to say. So I don't know really what is Purushartha means. Why it is used, that word you are asking, I don't know.
But it is not there in the verse, I think.
Yes.
Purushartha is not there in the verse.
Can you, which paragraph was it there?
That is in 34th verse. Is this concept in 34th?
No. See, that
sorry,
word
sorry,
came here.
Sorry, not 34th. Just a minute. It is mentioned in.
No, here.
It is in the purport. It is in the purport.
Correct. Nice.
After Kaivalyam and after Chitti Shakti of Patanjali, after Kaivalyam. And before this oneness with the Supreme, before the oneness with the Supreme.
Here it is.
Before all these siddhis, I think, not siddhis, this after all these siddhis. Explanation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Tendency in transcendental. Vedanta Sutra. Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Kaivalyam, Chitti Shakti, monist, but according to Patanjali, Kaivalyam.
This is what
maybe
you
in
are
this
saying.
one.
See, this is basically
Before,
the great sage declares in his Yoga Sutras.
Yes.
It is there in 4.33 of the Yoga Sutras where Patanjali. There he is using that word Purushartha Sunyanam Gunanam Prati Prashavaha Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishtita Va Chitta Shaktir Iti.
yes.
That is being used. And Prabhupada uses this somewhere, this Purushartha again somewhere.
Yeah, next paragraph, first
Purushartha
line.
means material religiosity.
Yes, this is what I was
So
asking.
Purushartha means,
That
see, the
material
artha, see, again, if you say artha means it is some benefit, Prabhu. Right? So that benefit could be in various ways, like it could be economic, or it could be for sense gratification, or it could even be that desire to become one with God. So he's saying everything is having a motive. You understand? You get it, Prabhu? See, Purushartha means material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, an attempt to become one with the Supreme. This oneness with the Supreme is called Kaivalyam by the monists.
Yes, yes. And according to Ashtanga Yoga, it is not like that.
According to the original Patanjali thing, it's about coming to this platform of being situated in your constitutional position in relationship with the
internal
Supreme.
or transcendental potency.
Internal potency, or that means you are eternally an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the original version of Patanjali Yoga. That's what Prabhupada is trying to say.
Yes, bro.
See, Purushartha Sunyanam Gunanam Prati Prashavaha Kaivalyam Swarupa Pratishta. So that means the definition here is Swarupa Pratishta. That means you are situated in your constitutional position. But in that case, there the understanding is achieving all this gratification, ultimate to the point of liberation. You understand, right? Purushartha
Yes.
Sunyanam is in that monist. Sunyavadi is monist. Right? For them, the artha, that means the purpose of yoga, is actually reaching this point of, Prabhupada explains it, that 4 stages of economic dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Moksha is being focused on, which is the highest point of the desire to merge with the Lord. But Kaivalyam Swarupa, but here the point is, it's about getting to your Swarupa, that means constitutional position, which is situated in constitutional position, which is basically serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yeah, thanks. Very wonderful, properties. Almost so many, research and so much of philosophical, left, right, center, everything is correct.
Yeah.
Thanks. Very nice. Correct. Nicely explained. Thanks.
Okay, so Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for joining the ISKCON West program, outpost of ISKCON Seshadripuram. So we will meet again next Sunday. Next Sunday, of course, is Nasimha Chaturdasi. So it's going to be a great celebration at the temple. And evening, of course, we will have Nasimha Katha. We will have a Nasimha Katha next week, being Nasimha Chaturdasi. Hare Krishna. Please join next week for the blissful Nasimha Katha. Prahalad Katha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, devotees on the YouTube. Hare